Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast with myself, Cole Ruud-Johnson, and Mr. Tucker Merrihew. We are back on the mic. We got an exciting show for you guys today. You're hearing now again another kind of run through of a lot of client case study podcasts. Actually, this week I'll film our 30th. By the end of the week, I'll film our 30th client case study podcast. We have a lot of people around the country that are crushing. We're going to share some of those stories today, but before we get into that, Tucker, how are things on your end of the world? How's the build, the biggest build ever coming along?
It's in process. It's probably the slowest process of any we've done in a long time, but it's in process. Dealing with the city on some little small details still, but they are relentless, let me tell you. But other than that, we're gearing up for season on all the rental stuff too. Had a AC unit that looks like it's about to explode on me. So trying to get that fixed before we get people in back to back and just kind of checking out and punching out all the other houses. A lot of the car haulers are coming back to town. All the supercars are getting dropped off and the old people are driving them around, not like they should be driving supercars, super slow, really. But so, season's just about upon us when that starts to happen.
Well, what is like the season there if you had to, beginning to end?
This year I think it's starting a little bit sooner because we, knock on wood, we haven't had any hurricanes. So, that like last year, hurricanes kind of ravaged a lot of Southwest Florida. Ian obviously just wiped it out for a sustained amount of time. So people came back later, or if they did come back sooner, it was like check on their property. Whereas this year, because there have been no hurricanes, we're October 9th. Technically, we're almost out of hurricane season, but the water starts to cool a little bit. Temperatures cool. So to get like a real bad one beyond this point would be pretty difficult. And especially with what they have forecasted over the next couple of weeks, which is not much or anything that puts us at risk. So I'd say probably October 15th on if people really start to pile in usually. But like I said, I've seen the car haulers. I've seen all the brightly colored Lambo SUVs start showing up. There's more like bright orange, neon green Lambo SUVs here than you probably would see anywhere.
Man, that car is so played out. That like Lamborghini Urus SUV, man. It's like every time you can tell someone's new money, and or is like their first couple years of making their money when they drive a bright colored Lamborghini Urus.
It's the car of, I would say, the national car of old people that have a little bit of money, but they're being financially responsible is here in Naples. The Corvette.
Cool. Yeah, there's the new one.
Yeah. There's whatever the price.
Stingray.
Yeah. Whatever the one is that's like a reasonable amount of money. I think it's like
it's like 80 grand.
Or 80 grand for, it's still fast and it looks nice, but there are more of those Corvettes on the road here than just about any other car during season.
But those are fun drives though. When I was filming the TV show up in August, one of Tyler who works for us, buddies, owns a car dealership, and he just hit me up and he's like, hey, you can just take it for the week and just drive it. And it was a fun drive. I don't fit in a lot of those little cars. Like I've driven a Lamborghini before, hated it.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good fit for you.
Even a G-Wagon, like I've driven Jimmy's G-Wagon, and it just feels like I'm driving a toy car.
Yeah, they're tight. I've never driven one, but I've looked inside, and it definitely. I know, like a lot of basketball players used to drive them, and I always wondered, like, how in the world do they fit into these things comfortably? They must just really love the idea of a G-Wagon, and the comfort thing is irrelevant.
Well, they drive it 10 minutes from their apartment downtown to the stadium.
That's true.
And back. That's my guess. And then someone's driving them around the rest of the time, man. That's something else.
I guess one last thing is I went to dinner last night. We met some really cool people. We've started to meet some like other entrepreneurial people here that have big businesses. But these people here, they own a big glass company and super nice. But they've got a table at Mar-a-Lago in a couple of months, and so they invited us. We get to go and see what Mar-a-Lago is like, which would be kind of cool. So it's a non-political statement, but it's just a cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah,
go sit at somebody's table they paid a shat ton of money for.
Yeah, I see your Facebook posts too. I love those. Most of my Facebook feed is like people just like one sentences. It's just like a photo of a Trump meme or something like that, and then yours are like long written out explanations of why things are going south in Portland. And then you have like 25, 30 people that all comment like, yep, this is spot on.
You know what? Portland is a weird place, man. I wish it would fix itself, but they put more effort into fighting just somebody putting a magnifying glass over the problems than they do actually trying to fix the problems. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's such it's backwards world there. It really is. And I'm from there. My family lives there. I've said things for years and years. You've heard me say it. Like, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff that could be done to fix that place,
Yeah.
and nobody ever actually does a damn thing. And all they do is complain and push back when you do try and fix it, or somebody does. So I don't know what'll happen, but yes,
What,
I felt like I was spot on.
when you go on one of those long form Facebook posts, like what mood are you in? It's like after a long day of seeing a bunch of bullshit, or like is it the
Yeah,
weekend when you're just
usually.
sitting around?
Like, I'll see a lot of people that are just like I thought were intelligent people say some of the dumbest shit ever in terms of just like justifying stupidity. And after I see that, like, handful of times, I'm like, okay, these people that think that, come across as smart and successful are saying these completely outlandish, dumb things. It's like, all right, somebody's got to like at least put something out in the world that kind of is truthful and not just like, there's one builder. This guy drives me nuts. It's all political theater, but he kowtows to the majority of people's political persuasion there with
Yeah.
whatever his Facebook posts are. And I
Yep.
know he doesn't believe it because I know him personally and I've talked to him in private about all this stuff, but he does it just as political theater, and it just makes me sick. It's just it's like,
The virtue
what's wrong
signaling.
with you? What's
The
that?
virtue signaling I can't
Yeah.
stand, where like, especially when you know someone, something happens and you see them post about it, and you're like, you don't believe that.
I mean,
Or
that's
you've never
yeah.
cared about that before. What are you why are you online talking about this all day? You've never once mentioned this.
I don't know. People are crazy, man. And that really is the Northwest. The Northwest is like the epicenter for virtue signaling. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. With all the three black people that live in Portland, it's just so funny to me. Like, it's such a mixing pot here. Like, you'd think like coastal Florida would be like completely the opposite and there'd be no diversity at all. This is like the most diverse place I've ever lived by like 100x, right? And then you go to the Northwest and it's like the population of black people, minorities, is like sub 10% if you added them all up. Like, it's just, and then
Yep.
then you get these crazy white people whipping themselves all the time and just doing crazy stuff, and it's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's crazy, man. Virtue signaling is out of control there.
Yeah. Well, we were in this last weekend. We were in Scottsdale for our end of quarter team offsite, and it was a blast. But we had a couple guys that on the team that had never been at the desert before, and
Oh, really? Some
they
of them had never
thought,
been there.
yeah, they thought, especially Nelson thought that when he was coming to like just cactuses and rolling things of hay across a big field, and we stayed like right in Old Town, so right by the mall,
Yep.
like a 4-minute golf cart ride, and we got the golf cart. Jimmy gave us a golf cart, and he was mind blown because that especially that part, like Paradise Valley, Arcadia, there's so much green there for a desert, for Arizona, and driving them through there, they were just mind blown.
And
about,
there's like actual mountains almost right there, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Dude,
or
I've been
it's
there a
cool.
lot recently, and every time I go there, I'm liking it more. And this time, one thing I noticed is that people are so nice, and it's so weird. Even in California, California's beautiful, but people here aren't that nice. They're a little nicer than Seattle because at least there's sun. But you go, man, everyone that works at a restaurant or works at a coffee shop or no matter what they do are just so kind. And it's such a rare thing. And then I go back to Seattle, and the difference between like Arizona and Seattle in terms of just hospitality is insane.
Yeah, it's true. I never, I've always loved my time in Scottsdale, and unfortunately, I couldn't join you guys this past week just due to family obligations. But I never really thought about. I've always had a great time there, but I never really thought about how nice people are there. I was probably younger and just not paying attention to it for the majority of the time.
All
I
you
spent
hear
there,
about
but-
is how nice the bottle service girls were at the time.
yeah, maybe yeah, they were always nice there. That's for sure. That's the one thing Phoenix is not deficient in good looking people. Mainly
No.
women. That's
No.
for sure. Which is ultimately where I found my wife. So there you go. Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into today's back half of the show, actually diving into real estate related topics, not just stuff we like to talk about. We've been on a streak of the most client wins we've seen come in in a long time, and we see that posted in our community. We have a lot of clients coming on the show that you guys are going to hear from in our channels, and it's not like we don't normally hear them, but the the wave has been massive. And I think it's important to talk about, especially because we're in kind of a sideways market right now. I wouldn't say we're in a down market, but definitely a sideways kind of holding pattern where we're definitely still a buyer's market. Pockets of the country are doing great. Pockets of the country are doing terribly. There's some stuff here in San Diego. My in-laws just listed a flip and got pretty much a full price offer in 12 days. And some parts of the country, you can put something on the market and not get an offer for 3 months. So it depends on a lot. But there's two I want to mention that are coming this week specifically. One of them is Brandon, who's been on the show before. Again, he says he's not even 12 months into his investing journey, working a W-2 last November when he started, both in the business and with us. And he's on pace with what's in escrow to be about $1 million by the end of the year close without even adding anything else. So he'll probably surpass that. 150 grand this month, has a closing every single week this week, and 9 in escrow. And that's all from us sending him about 200 leads per month, and then him just ruthlessly attacking the phone, leaning in with us and our coaching team on sales process and who he should hire and how he should operate. That one's been mind-blowing. And then the second one is another guy, Mason Mattioni, who's also in his first year. I spoke at Ryan Doss event in January, and he was there here in San Diego. And worked for Boeing, I believe. He was an engineer of some kind. And he actually we had a podcast with him released this Tuesday. So if you guys haven't, or Wednesday, if you guys haven't listened, go back and listen. And he was, I would say he did a deal or 2 or 3 with a partner, but really couldn't get traction, and not a sales guy, like really engineer brained. Kind of sounds like a robot, Mason. If you're listening, I'm sure you'll agree. And started working with us in our coaching team, and he has $100,000 in escrow closing in the next 45 days too. So some really cool stuff happening, you guys, especially in a sideways market. I can't even imagine what these guys are going to do when the market turns around. But I know you've seen all of them roll in as well.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of days, they've just been rattled off in our, Slack channel, just kind of what's, who's winning and what they're doing. And it's super impressive. And it's not like we're making this up either, because obviously you're having them on the show, to say, hey, we actually really did this. But I agree. The amount of success that these guys are having, especially in a sideways market, it's a testament to them for sure. I got to say, Tyler must be doing a pretty damn good job, coaching these guys up too, yep. Which obviously Tyler runs the coaching end of the company for us. And it kind of helps really refine these guys' skills when it comes to talking with, negotiating, and locking up deals. But it's definitely been the highest percentage of clients we've seen, to date that are having success. And I would say the market's not really any better than it has been. So that's been a constant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been surprising to see just how small tweaks and how people see their relationship with sellers. One of the things Mason said on the show this week was, when I really internalized being there to provide solutions and not just getting on the phone trying to chase a check, that's when everything turned for him. And I think for a lot of people, they're closer than they think. There's people with 3 brain cells that are making a lot of money in this business because they just do a couple things differently. So yeah, it's been fascinating to see. But we're going to move into a new segment today. I'm going to ask Tucker some questions. I'm going to call it Tucker's Terrific Takes on Current Trends. A lot of T's in there. I think
we can call it the TTT acronym. I guess that would be the acronym for it, right?
The TTT segment. One of the things I've realized about our show and our kind of dynamic is I'm earlier in my journey, and I've learned a ton from Tucker. Tucker's further along in his journey and has I've got my ass kicked a lot, but he's definitely got his ass kicked more, and I think Tucker's just raw insight be very valuable too, because they're trending topics right now. I think I want to let's start with what everyone's talking about. I see people change their whole business model around this recently, which is Novations. I'm sure you've seen those being talked about. It's, put simply, people that are just having a seller essentially sign away their rights to have this person listed on the MLS for them. I think in a lot of cases, it's not really a benefit to the seller, but it's pitched as an equity protection program. And there's a lot of creative guru ways to pitch it. But I don't know how much you've heard about the Novation world and how much of a popular people basing their whole company around it, but I'd love to hear your raw take on Novations.
When it first came out, I was like, what is this thing? Everybody always tries to give something a cool name that sounds new, and there's really nothing new in real estate, right? But this is kind of a new angle, I guess, to try and make money in real estate. So I can appreciate that. But to your point, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I never wanted to do them because, like you mentioned, I don't feel like there's really any benefit to the seller. But that's not to say you can't, with a good sales guy, get sellers to say okay to it, which is why people do it. But you're basically going and saying, hey, you don't want to put your house on the market, but I'll put the house on the market. And then you pay them X and you receive X plus whatever the difference is that you get when you put it on the market. Is that kind of, in its simplest terms?
Yeah. I mean, the simple way is from we did a few of them. It's, the seller just signs an extra piece of paper, you list their home on the market for them. The seller gets whatever you agree to upon price is with them. Whatever you can sell it on MLS as you take the difference. So if you say, hey, you're getting 370.
You manage
exactly.
the process.
You manage the MLS process. Yeah, essentially.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I just don't really see the benefit. Like, I mean, it seems like, I guess if they don't know a realtor, they've never known a realtor, they're not comfortable talking to a realtor, because you still have the same process once it's listed, right? Somebody has to come see the house. Somebody has to inspect the house. You have to negotiate inspection items, even if it's a fixer, like they're still going to do their inspections and play that, patty cake game that realtors play when there's a buyer's agent and a listing agent. So you still have to go through all that stuff. So to me, I was like, okay, maybe it fits. I guess it's a tool in the tool belt, right? Like that's how I would look at it. Like maybe there are some situations out there where people are just really bad at dealing with people and you're able to deal with them. And so you get to list their house because nobody wants to go talk to them. No realtor will call them back or deal with them even for a paycheck, right? But other than that, like at scale, like you mentioned, somebody doing it and building their whole business around it, I have a feeling that Novations are probably one of those things that will be looked at a little harder moving forward and probably, really poo-pawed on by the realtor world, or real estate, some attorney generals or whatever that are looking at real estate type stuff. Cause you're basically equity skimming. I mean, that's essentially what it is. Right. And you can agree with me or disagree with me, but that's the reality of it. Like you're taking a piece of equity for not ever actually having ownership. And you're not even really providing a buyer. You're using a platform that anybody can use to find the buyer. So, it's different than wholesaling in that regard. So I don't know. I've never been a big fan of it. I definitely never, created any aspect of our business around it because I just felt like it was kind of like, well, I mean, sure, you could find a few people to let you do it, but you really want to do that at scale and like make that part of your pitch? I don't know. It just seemed a little slimy to me at scale. Like I said, here and there, it may work out for people or work for both parties or all parties, but overall, like trying to hit that every single time you get a lead that's like, well, there's not quite enough equity to buy it at wholesale. You're not going to pay retail. So let's do a novation on it, right?
Yep.
I guess it's just trying to make money out of leads that you can't really make money on. And that's the way that they came up with doing it. But it seems like it might get somebody in trouble at some point also.
I think it's a great tool. I think all these things, seller finance, subject to novations, all of these things, I think are great tools to have in your tool belt. For every 20th deal you run into, it's like we have a client right now, Mason, the guy I was just talking about, who has an amazing deal in Tacoma, Washington, that he's doing an novation on, but it was the right fit. It was a lady that just didn't genuinely got presented all of her options and just genuinely did not want to deal with anything. And I think there are those people out there. I think if you over explain it, if you actually explain what it is, a lot of sellers, my guess, will go, why would I do that? And that's the problem. You have to put a fancy name on something to try to make sellers overlook what it actually is. Probably something that can get you in trouble. And it's why I think a lot of regulations are coming out in our space, which leads me to the second one, which is, what is your take on the regulations that are continuing to come out in a lot of states around, wholesaling, off-market deal buying, how you can target sellers, how you can't target sellers, the licenses that you need. What is your take on that? Is it going to be expanding? What do you think is going to happen with all that?
I would bet that it probably expands with time because, I mean, keep in mind, we're at a minimum, a flat market, and probably it's been a declining market in a lot of areas for, the last 2 years. So, they're pushing these things now probably because of the boom stuff that happened in like 21, beginning of 22, right? Into 23. And so it's kind of this lagging thing that's now going into effect. If we wait for the next boom cycle, and they've already kind of started some of this regulation stuff, I think it's only going to continue because then you get a whole bunch of new people that jump in to real estate. And then, obviously with that comes some people that really make some big mistakes or, don't follow through on what they say they're going to do, or they misrepresent what they're going to do, or whatever it is. So I think it will continue. But I will say this, kind of combining the two questions. When I first got started, I think the first real estate seminar I ever went to was like a Robert Allen seminar. I don't know if you remember him, real dorky looking dude. And I still had the binder before I moved here to Florida, and it was packed away somewhere. And I opened it and I looked at like the actual material, and it was like the most rudimentary, like it was so ridiculous. I mean, just compared to even what the coaching that Tyler does now with just our internal clients, it's not even like a full blown, fortune builders package where they're teaching stuff, but it's all that stuff you really need to know. But this was so far away from any of that, right? In terms of just like level of expertise, it was just so basic. It was like, send a postcard to somebody and say you want to buy their house, right? Just, which obviously is a strategy, but there's a lot more to it than that. But it didn't go any deeper. But my point is that in this binder, there was like a million ways to like make money with leads, right? So, well, whether it be seller financing or wrap mortgages or this, that, and everything else. And I would say it probably took a couple of extra years for me to get great traction, because I got so wrapped up in this, like all these fancy schmancy ways of, you can buy real estate and do things. At the end of the day, the richest motherfuckers in this game, they just buy stuff, they redevelop it, or they fix it up, they resell it, or they buy it and they own it, and they buy it in the right time of the cycle, and then they buy more and they own more, right? So like you can do all that stuff and you can make money, but like you're truly going to get rich when you buy, redevelop, buy, build, buy, fix, if it's a big apartment complex or a bigger, type building, and keep, right? And that's really the truth of it. And so I wouldn't get too wrapped up, in these kind of alternate strategies, as like a permanent or a thing to build your entire business around, because you're trying to make magic a lot of times where there's not, right? That's what these strategies are meant for. And they are a tool in the toolbox, don't get me wrong, but it's just a strategy, right? And it's usually a very underused strategy over the life of your career. So for anybody that says like even subject to, like the amount of subject to that you should probably do with all the leads that come in is like single digit percentage, if that, right? Otherwise, you're just trying to make something happen that probably shouldn't happen, right? Unless you have a crystal ball and you can foresee what's going to happen in the real estate market, which nobody does, and you utilize some of these strategies at that point. But other than that, there's just only so many that actually even make sense. And I know it's market specific, certain markets more than others. When you have these higher value markets, seller financing, novations, subject to, it's much harder to get them to fit, because these people have so much cash in these houses already that those kind of additional ways to buy real estate or control it or acquire it, they're just not as appealing to the property owner. They're just not. So, and then these cheaper markets, obviously you can do it a little bit more, but you're not going to get rich in these cheaper markets. You're just going to do volume, and you're going to crank and crank and crank. I mean, there's one gal online, I won't name names, but they're so like boisterous about doing like 200 flips a year in some shitty low dollar market in middle America. And it's like, I can't think of a worse business model.
More brain damaging business model.
Oh,
that's actually going to be the third question, or we would tie it into the third question when we get there. So it's, these kind of all transition into each other. I think the regulation thing is, I think our government and when things get regulated, there's kind of, things live on two extremes. Like our government's not good at doing anything in the middle. That's been proven. Nothing's ever like balanced. It's always on one extreme. And I think a long time real estate, both on the off market side and as an agent, it's so frictionless to get into it and start doing deals. And because of that, there's a lot of people that come and go that do equity swimming, and then they put people in a really bad spot, and they renegotiate deals for no reason. And there's a lot of that out there being taught. And so I think it's our fault in the industry that there's this rebound of regulation that's happening in certain states. And to Tucker's point, the buying and selling of property is never going to be illegal.
No, never.
It's not. I mean, there's going to be regulations on how you can market and how you can do things, and there already are in a lot of places. In Washington, it's a Class B misdemeanor to intentionally market to an owner-occupied pre-foreclosure. So, I mean, there's already laws and regulations in most states around how you can do things. You don't even know about them, and you probably still do them. So, yeah, I think it's going to continue to happen, and I think the message is it's not going to stop real estate from being transacted. You're just going to have to continue to adjust your strategy, and it might get a lot of the fly by night guys out of the business, which is what I think is a good thing for people anyways that treat this as a career. Third question, kind of last one for today's show, is on that topic you're talking about, right? The high volume, low profit, low return on brain damage business model for the people that are out in Arkansas, Ohio, Kentucky, Alabama. What is your advice to people like that? Is it to move to a market where you can do 10 deals, make the same amount of money? Is it to do deals virtually? Like, because my advice is normally like, honestly, I hate to be blunt, but like you want to make real estate your career, there's not a worse path, I think, than doing $7,000 wholesale deals in St. Louis and having to do 150 of them a year. But I'd love to hear your kind of raw take on that.
I mean, I'm in complete agreement. That's a tough business model. It just is. Now, are some people, they live in these markets, they don't want to do anything virtually. They want to build their business there, and they're willing to do it. I get it. It's hard to leave places, right? Especially if your family's there, you grew up there, whatever it is. So they may not have picked the market. They're just making the best of their situation. So I don't want to rag on everybody that's in, those types of markets doing that type of volume. But I will say it is the absolute hardest way to make money. That and to own rentals, the cheap rentals, like you wait for them to appreciate by like 30 grand a piece. And then you got to sell like 40 of them to put any decent amount of money together to then go buy something else that's of real value. Like it just is one of those things where it's like, there's such an easier path. And, maybe at a certain point it's, you get to one of those other markets. But if you're in one of those other markets to begin with, you've got a tremendous advantage out of the gate. Now, the disadvantage is that you need more capital to play right away, right? You can't just go buy these cheap houses, that people are giving away for next to nothing. But the advantage is that you can make a lot more money a lot quicker, and you can build a business that has a lot less brain damage and yields much more profits every year. So, and puts you in the way of opportunities of owning better overall real estate, right? That has, increased equity margins, higher depreciation ability, things like that. So personally, I mean, my ideal business model has been what it's been for a long time, which is lesser volume, higher dollar projects. But you have to have, a certain amount of experience to get to that level too, to make that choice, which I've said before. But that's the model that works for me. And honestly, shit, even Jimmy called me when we talked to him a couple weeks ago, because we had something we had to, some mutual business we had to deal with. And, he was like, I like that model. I might have to do that one of these days. Like, cause I was like, you're probably running ragged with that TV show and all that. He's like,
Yeah, he
oh
likes
man.
that though.
Oh, I know he'll never do it, but, he understands the appeal of it too, right? That's my point. So,
I definitely wishes his brain up. I think it's just, you have to be aligned with every individual that's in this business has to build a business. The term I like is called like a founder market fit, where like you have to align with your business model. Like some people, like, Jimmy likes buying 12, 15 flips a month sometimes. And like, he likes that action. He likes that. I mean, it's just how he is. And I think that everyone's wired differently, and you have to find the model that aligns with that. I don't know how many people are truly aligned with like let's do $5,000 deals a month. But again, some people have to make the best out of where they are. I've ran both businesses. I've done deals in St. Louis. I've done deals all over the country. For me, the real estate sweet spots, a market where you can make 30 plus grand on a wholesale fee, you can make 100 plus grand on a flip. When you buy a property, it appreciates significantly. It's an appreciation heavy market. Obviously, then you get all the other benefits of rentals, and you can do a lot of damage with a few deals, right? There's guys here in San Diego that they do 4 infill houses a year on top of just their normal stuff, and that makes them more money than the business they run actively. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
And that's the benefit of it. Now, you're definitely right. If you're wired, like Jimmy is, you got to go like that. You got to fill the dead air, right? With just more and more, and just trying to create a bigger and better business. But, at a certain point, everybody has a choice, and you don't want to run that model forever. But, we did a lot more volume for a long time. So it's not like, I rolled out of bed and this is our model, but this is just after years of doing higher volume and a lot more brain damage and a lot more employees. This is where I've landed at this point. And I personally like it the best, but I had to have perspective in order to know that. So
it's kind of go through all of them first.
yeah,
I think it's a
exactly.
normal thing. Absolutely. Well, you guys, that is a wrap on today's episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast. Thank you guys for sticking around. As you know, we don't grow this show through ads or paid stuff. We grow it through organic. You're telling a friend about it, and it's growing tremendously. So please continue to do that. Reach out, let us know who you want to see, what you want to see, how we can continue to perfect the show for you, and if it's valuable for your business. If you're out there, wherever you listen, a review on whatever platform you listen on means the world. And until next time, you're only one deal away.